Hello everyone, welcome to the Verizon Industry Project, the Nexus Challenge for Spring 2017. Again, we are honored with the presence of having Verizon not only here physically, but bring this project to Philadelphia University. This will be the fourth project, right? We had obviously three projects before this in succession. This will be the fourth project. The projects have been they've been great in many, many different ways, and also for the students, it allows you to collaborate in a different sort of spectrum and landscape that you hadn't done before. This is a very organized industry project. You will have set teams to work with. You'll also have the expertise of Verizon to help you on the project. You also have the expertise of Philadelphia University to help you work on design and also the wearable parts of the project, including the fabrications. Again, it's truly an honor to have Verizon. My partner on this project is Eric Schneider. He's from the MS in Industrial Design, and we have Jonathan Spindell, who's the program director for engineering on the project. We also have Todd Corlett from Industrial Design, who's not here today. We have Neil Harner from user experience and digital design on the project. We have Marshall Weiss from textile design. Is also on the project. We have Mike Leonard, the dean for the School of Design and Engineering, who's he's supporting the project fully. Does anyone I missed?
That covers it.
And D.R. Witter, the vice president of innovation, who brought us the Verizon projects and the Verizon connections early on. So the outcome of this is to make for all the teams to make something commercial Verizon can use. That's a big goal, right? But there's always bits and pieces that I think Verizon takes back from these projects that makes them look introspectively at some of the things that they're doing. And you look at the projects and the scope and the work and what happens a little bit differently. And I think that's an asset to Verizon, and it's an asset to what we do here in industry projects altogether. So there'll be some prototyping. There'll be lots of conceptualizing. I'm not saying the subject matter on this project is very easy. The scope is, I'll let Eric talk about the scope, but the scope is hard. The marketplace is full, but it's full in all the wrong places, I believe. So, it's such a pleasure to have Verizon here. They're such a support for Philadelphia University, and without my co-conspirator in all this, Emily Boslin, who's going to come up here and welcome her team. She's been great to work with and helping to coordinate this effort. So let's give Verizon.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming today, and thanks for being a part of this project. As Mark said, this will be our fourth year, and we're really excited to see what you can come up with. We've been beyond impressed each of the previous 3 years with what your colleagues have been able to develop, given these really tough challenges that my colleagues are going to lay out for you. I get two questions every year, so I'm going to address them up front. The first is, yes, Verizon is hiring interns and new college graduates. So when it gets to that time for you, for one thing, you can email me your resume directly. We have colleagues in HR that will take a look because you've already been a part of a Verizon project and move you to the top of that virtual stack. And then, of course, there's the online portal where you can always look for jobs and interns in your own time. The other question I always get is about IP. What if you develop something absolutely fabulous? Is Verizon going to take that from you? And the answer is no. We would love for you to invent something brand new, to have it be connected technology to solve a big, tough social challenge, and for you to use what Verizon can contribute to do that on your own. So we encourage all of you to think of your own ideas and new projects and ventures, whether it's over the course of this project or in the future as you're an entrepreneur or working as part of another organization. So we'll have time for questions at the end, but you can also always shoot me an email if you have questions about how this project's going, or if you ever have a suggestion on how we can improve this for students like you or the students who will come in future years. So now I'm going to introduce my colleague Paul Sullivan, who's our regional vice president, and he's going to give a brief welcome on Verizon's behalf as well.
Great. Well, thanks, Emily. And as Emily said, I've been with the program for 3 years now, and I'd say the bar is really set high. And each and every single year, what we do is kind of look through the various different projects, and it really kind of blows our socks off from the work that you are able to do. And as Mark and Emily were talking about, it's really kind of thinking out of the box. So there's a lot that's going on out in industry, but how can you relate your project in with Verizon-PhilaU or over in the Verizon Wireless space there? Try to make sure that when you're thinking through there, we're looking for a lot of different ideas that, quite simply, from your point of view in what the studies that you've been doing is really what's new, what's the latest, and we want to make sure that from a Verizon perspective that we're in the forefront there too. And with me today, I have the regional vice president for the Philadelphia area, as well as the director for Verizon here in Philadelphia, and we'll be available for you too if you're asking questions. These folks primarily deal with the wireline side, with the Verizon-PhilaU, and think through the various different initiatives that we have. We just rolled out we call it instant internet, and instant internet is really think of the internet speeds of 750 megabits instantly, right? That's what we offer here in Philadelphia. And not only do we offer that, we offer that in a symmetrical speed, so the download as well as the upload. So think of those high types of speeds that you can have, integrate that into your project, as well as we also have Verizon Wireless. How do you integrate a wireless type of solution too? So I'm going to introduce Yoli, and I know Yoli just came to us. She was an engineer in Manhattan, so she has a great engineering type of mode here too.
So hi, so it's exciting to be here. Like Paul mentioned, I have worked for Verizon for quite a bit of time. I won't tell you how long, 28 years actually, and all of it has been in New York City. So it's very exciting for me to come to Philadelphia and learn what they have going on in Philly. New York City there's always something going on. It's just hectic. That's what I'll say. But one of the things, Paul stole a little bit of my thunder because the instant internet is super exciting. I'm not sure if you guys saw the commercials, but we had some commercials launch on Saturday to talk about it. And it's really exciting because, as he mentioned, it is asymmetrical. So not only downloading, but uploading as well. So I think that gives you something, to think about, something that you can do in an instant on the commercial, where they have somebody trying to figure out a puzzle, and just that quickly, you can download and upload. So I'm excited to see what the program offers. Again, I'm new to it. Paul has filled me in, so as he mentioned, the bar is set really high. I saw some notes going back and forth between him and Emily, and I'll just say it sounds like the class of 2016 did an outstanding job. So I'm looking forward to meeting with you at the midpoint, and then again at the end of the year when the tough piece comes, right? To make the decision on whose idea is the best. So I'm looking forward to being here for the team. Thank you. With that, I'll give you Dennis. I think you're supposed to say something too.
Hey everybody, so I work for Yoli, used to work for Paul. I'm the Director of Operations for the entire city of Philadelphia, state of Delaware, and parts of eastern Pennsylvania. As I think about what you guys are up against in this challenge, I want you to think about, again, what Yoli mentioned, how do you tie it back to the technologies that we have to offer? Symmetrical speeds, fiber optic networks, and then obviously our wireless platforms. Really, how do we use that access to connectivity that Verizon provides in the solutions that you come up with? I'm super excited to see what everybody comes up with. I do personally have some summer jobs that I'm looking to staff on the operations side, so it's a little bit more working with your hands, not in an office. If anyone's interested in doing something like that, reach out to me after the session. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. With that, I think I'll turn it back to Emily, or who is?
Thanks. I think, do you want to do the brief from PhilaU's perspective, or would you like us to talk about Verizon?
I think it would be better if we give them the brief so that they have some
Right.
context.
Right, so in that way, it's you guys can come in.
All right, so So, how can we use hardware, software, and textile systems? There's a textile emphasis in this project, obviously evidenced by who we've staffed it with this time, so there are textile students on every team. To advance personal health and safety in ways which are seamless, continuous, and transparent. So those three words are really important this time around. And you'll see in the scenarios that we've written that we're looking at using interfaces which don't intrude into people's lives, but which blend into their lives. Minimum of setup and intervention from the user. And we want you to come up with solutions and ideas that can be used by anyone, not just tech geeks. So the reflexive reaction we see from the students, many students every year, is just going to make an app for that, right? So think about your grandmother who can't even use a smartphone, or my 90-year-old mother who struggles with, can't even find the volume button on her phone. She is not going to fill in data on an app. So this needs to somehow blend seamlessly into her life. So the emphasis for the project, first of all, is on the use of textiles, sensors, and output technologies, and there will be engineering students involved in the project to help you with that part of it. And we're hoping that you're going to come up with solutions that employ what we're calling zero-touch interfaces. The obvious one is voice, but there are lots of other ways in which devices can communicate with you and through which you can communicate with them. It can be wearables, it can be things that you rest on, surfaces that you move over, everything's on the table. So we're going to lay some ground rules. While an app is conceivable for setup, we don't want that to be the primary interface for whatever you come up with. Systems should be used through other channels. So the goal is to make interaction as direct and intuitive as possible. I just saw something about a failed Kickstarter campaign, actually. I'm blanking on the name of the device, but it was a device that was supposed to help people with ADHD and who suffer from panic attacks relax. And it was a handheld device that vibrated and made supposedly soothing sounds. So there was, although you did set up on your phone, the interface with the actual device didn't use voice. It was essentially all by touch and feel. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. Wellness in this context. So it doesn't have to be healthcare related in the sense that we're not necessarily looking for solutions that relate directly to medicine. So it could be disease management, they could be solutions that help people with their mobility in one form or another, help them relax, whether it's for a chronic condition or just to get a sense of well-being. Performance enhancement, so sports performance could be a part of this conceivably, and safety and comfort. So just something that makes somebody more comfortable. When you give you, so, pull up the personas. Yeah, I put. Okay, so just to get you guys started thinking in the right direction, we developed three sort of personas, and I will print these. I will actually email them to everybody, to all the teams. We tried to sort of cover a range of possible populations. So first, Nancy, an elderly woman living in Arizona, COPD, so she needs oxygen supplementation. Like my mother, she doesn't know how to use computers. Actually, my mother does know how to use a laptop. She just can't use her smartphone. But she needs something that's going to help her manage her disease, which is transparent and seamless. She's not a computer programmer. She's not going to fill in an app. So that's number one. So think of an elderly population that is not necessarily technologically sophisticated. Number two is actually based on two people I know. So younger parents living in suburban Philadelphia, they have young children. Their 9-year-old daughter has just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So their daughter is learning how to be independent. Her parents want to be able to manage her disease or help her manage her disease and monitor her treatment, but they don't want to intrude on her life because they want her to learn how to be independent and want her to learn how to manage manage her disease on her own. So the question is, are there technologies or systems or solutions that could help them make sure that she's being treated adequately without becoming intrusive and without seeming like they're hovering over her and helicoptering her? And then if you scroll down. And then number 3, somebody who's relatively technologically sophisticated, a 30-year-old woman living in New York City, has a stressful job as a copywriter. So she's working long hours, spends a lot of time sitting, knows that she's not moving enough, knows that she's probably not eating very well because she's eating at her desk half the time. She has tried a Fitbit, and it now lives in her dresser drawer like about half of the Fitbits out there. But she's still looking for something, some sort of technological device solution that will help her improve her lifestyle, encourage her to adopt better and healthier lifestyle habits without becoming intrusive. So the magic solution is yet to be found. So these are meant as kind of jumping off points to just get you guys thinking about possible use scenarios, possible areas in which you could concentrate. There are plenty more. If you survey lots of the devices that were introduced at CES this year, which Mark just returned from, you'll find lots of areas in which people are trying, mostly unsuccessfully, to address stuff like this. Anybody have questions so far? Okay. All right, I think we'll turn it back over to Verizon.
Okay, more fire hose information.
Yeah,
You have? Yeah, so Michael.
I'm all honest, so seamless.
Do you want to start with introducing who you
Yeah,
are at
but
Verizon?
I don't know if you can hear me okay. My name is Ihab Ashwaki. I'm part of Verizon Corporate Strategy. What we do in corporate strategy, we focus on the 5-10 years horizon for any industry. We kind of look at what's going on in the industry. Is this better? Yeah. So we look at the opportunities in the next 10 years, and we're trying to see how Verizon can play a part in that industry. And my specialty is healthcare, and I'm helping the company trying to kind of, if we have a fit in healthcare, and if we can have an opportunity there. So what I will do today, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you an overview of what the industry looks like and where we're seeing the industry is going from a health and wellness perspective. Then we'll go dive in a little bit into that, what I call the digital health market, and then go into what our ambition is and how we can use the assets that we have right now to get to the vision that we have in mind. So what this slide represents, before I get into the digital health, I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of history here about technology. So if you think about technology in the 90s and probably in the 80s, technology, the purpose of technology was to automate things. And the best example of that, the email, was to simply just communicate with someone through email instead of going to see that person in person. Then technology evolved and it got into the 2000s. And that phase, the focus was integrating different elements together. And the best example of that is your billing system. Now you can buy anything. Your financial institution is connected with every single system, and you can buy anything on the web using your credit card, and that's the integration phase. Now, from 2012 forward, we start to call that phase the third generation, and it's the inside era. And in that era, there are 2 objectives. One is to collect data about individuals and population and learn about those people to enhance and offer them better value, better services. And the second goal is to provide end-to-end service and seamless experience. Now, the best example of that, the e-commerce. The e-commerce is the evolution of the retail industry. And that's the most advanced right now, where you can shop from your house and get everything to your doorsteps without even leaving your house. That's something that every industry is trying to get to. And at the same time, they're trying to learn more about their individuals and what they're doing and the population to offer them better experience and better value. Now, healthcare, unfortunately, is lagging everybody else. It's extremely fragmented. It doesn't have that seamless experience. It's very reactive. It's extremely inefficient. Takes people 4 to 5 hours to go to the doctor to finish the whole experience with their healthcare provider. So the next evolution of healthcare is what we call digital healthcare. What that industry also, most importantly, is collect data about individuals and the population and start to learn about their behavior, how they can detect and prevent diseases. So that's kind of where the industry is going, the genesis where the industry is going overall. So if I can move to the slide. On this slide, what I'm showing here, this shows what we call the patient journey. So every patient, when they go to the doctor, they feel symptoms, they go book an appointment, they go for diagnosis, treatment, and then they go post-treatment. What you're seeing, those bubbles, those boxes, those are digital health services that's currently in the market. We do have about more than 1,200 startups in the market right now that they do deliver very specific data. I give you an example. Appointment scheduling. I don't know how many people use ZocDoc. Probably a few. So it does very specific thing. You can see doctor's calendar and you can book an appointment there. There are companies that offer telemedicine. What that is, simply companies like Teladoc, American Well. Those companies, what they do, they simply can see the doctor, diagnose you, send your prescription to your pharmacy, and then they get, and you go pick up your prescription. The problem what we're seeing here, it's extremely fragmented. And the value that those companies provide to their customers are very limited. It's very limited just to that specific thing that they're trying to do. What we're trying to do in the industry, the first thing is, if you collect all that stuff together and create that seamless experience, then you will have that ability to simply not leave your house when you're sick, which I found ironic for anybody who's sick to go book an appointment, see a doctor, go pick up your prescription while you're sick, you're getting sicker. So we have to solve that problem. This is something we gotta get to at some point. So what I'm trying to convey here is the idea is that the industry right now is very fragmented. There are services, and those services, they're trying to solve very specific problems. They need to integrate and provide those seamless experience. But more important to all of these guys and everybody else is the information that's collected by everybody. I'm going to give an example of a company that I spoke to. They were able to predict the Zika virus before even the CDC knew about it. And the way they did it, they had what's called a chatter, which is they have millions of doctors across the globe that they talk to each other to learn more about if they found a symptom that they didn't know about, and they try to kind of teach each other things. What happened, they found in that chatter, people are asking the same question in the same area. And what it turns out to be, it's simply those doctors didn't know about Zika, and they're trying to ask each other, they realized that there was a Zika clinic out in that area. Imagine the power of that data that's being collected and the information in those systems. We're not there yet. It's going to take 5 to 10, maybe more years to get to that point. But the idea of the digital health is to do one thing, is to become extremely efficient, provide services. I was just, some thought here, an example of my daughter, she had a skin rash. I had to see a doctor 4 times. There are ways where you can just go to the doctor, see it the first time, but the second and third time you don't have to do it. We can use technology like augmented reality, where you can take, a picture of that rash, and information will be laid on top of that that tells that the rash is bad or good, is getting worse, and the doctor, you can text that to the doctor will come back with a recommendation. There are use cases where you go to the doctor for, that could be 100% automated, it could be done from remotely kind of thing. The next slide, before I go to the next slide, any questions before I go, jump to the next one? No? Okay. So what I'm showing here is simply, it's a very rough draft of our vision of Verizon. So what we're trying to do here, we want to be the center of the market where, think about Amazon as the primary e-commerce or retail website. We want to get to a point where we are the go-to ecosystem for all healthcare services from a consumer perspective, where you can go buy, whether it's wearables or any apps, and connect those all different systems together to create a solution for customers, and also to help the industry advertise and sell those services our ecosystem kind of thing. So what we have currently, that box here represents what we kind of have in a high level. We do have the toolbox to build those services right now. We do have the digital transformation. We have services in telemedicine. We can offer that. We are investing in wearables, and if you know the term IoT as well, where we kind of trying to invest in building, giving innovators like you guys the toolbox to be able to develop the solution. The second important thing, which is intelligent networking. Intelligent networking, we're talking about BIOS, we're talking about wireless. It's extremely important for those services to be 100% reliable. And imagine doing, doctor somewhere doing a remote surgery, and they have a failure in their connection. It's a disaster, we can't afford that. So we are investing, and we're trying to make our network as reliable as possible, which is the most reliable in the country, and provide that service to everybody, make sure that information is reliable, is compliant with the government standards for healthcare. The third thing I want to talk about is secure cloud. This is something that's very important. In the industry, a few years back, you couldn't transmit any medical data on the network because the government didn't allow it. So you need to get your network certified. So we work diligently to make sure our network and also storing the data in a way that's compliant with the industry. So think about that as a toolbox. What we're going to be able to use that toolbox and develop solutions from health, wellness, and hopefully later on food consumption, and connect them all together to achieve one goal, which is prevent people from getting sick in the first place, instead of being active the way it is right now. That's it for me, I guess. Do you have any questions?
And you'll be able to share these slides with the students, right?
Yes, there's nothing confidential, yes.
So if you were writing really fast, could you quite catch it and share it?
Okay.
And does anyone know what IoT stands for?
Internet of Things.
Exactly. Good. We'll be talking more about that over the course of the
I just want to give a few examples of something here. You know, there's a huge potential for the healthcare wellness to come together. And the way you would think about it is that there are a lot of use cases that we go to the doctor for right now that could be solved by technology and using technology to augment those solutions. For example, think about teeth cavities. If there's a device that could be used to kind of tell you how your cavity, if it's severe or bad, then without going into this 6 months checkup, it will be very helpful. It makes people's life easier. It makes them be able to detect and conduct things before it even happens. Those are the things that's how the industry is evolving. At the same time, think about the whole physical check, which most people don't do on an annual basis, even though it's free and paid by their insurance. Think about how you can integrate the apps, the nutrition, the fitness, and working with telemedicine to be able to conduct that physical check remotely, and maybe in a proactive way, and it's not on an annual basis, on a regular basis. You can monitor that on a regular basis. Another example that elderly care. Elderly care is one of the biggest problems in the country where it's extremely inefficient right now. Think about having a sit-top box, like your cable box, and that's connecting to a belt your elderly wear that sends information all the time about where that person is, if they're sleeping, if they're walking, what they're doing in their life. This information is very helpful. And the idea is, the one thing I want to just make sure you guys get here, we need to get in the digital health, the purpose is to be proactive all the time and get to a point where even be able to know about disease, if somebody's having disease early on, and that will lower the cost of the health insurance and everybody else. I mean, when you think about, we spend about $3 to $4 trillion on healthcare in this country. It's about 27% of GDP. That's huge. If you're going to do a lot of preventive health, that will lower the cost significantly. All right. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ted Stecco. I'm with our Product and New Business Group. We're a product development group within Verizon that focuses on developing new technology to help enable new services, as well as helping to build new products. Now, you guys may know Verizon from a couple of the products that were brought up, but can people tell me what businesses Verizon is in? How do we make our money? Communications, what types? Cell phones? We heard wired in FiOS, right? Internet connectivity. Do we make our money anywhere else? Did you know we're in car business? Telematics. So Verizon acquired Hughes Telematics. So that's an Internet of Things or more machine-to-machine type application. But we provide the connectivity and systems to help diagnose a car, provide OnStar type services, our own brand through Verizon Telematics, diagnose cars, help with avoidance. We're working on technologies to help them with collision avoidance using our network. So that's business we're in. We're also doing things for cities and municipalities. Smart City. We have a company we acquired, Sensity. So we're going to be developing things like smart signage, street lights, cameras for smart cities to help with safety, community engagement, things like that, operational efficiency in the city. So our group, Product and New Business, is focused on building enabling technologies to get into new types of business and building solutions for those new types of business. So the group that I'm in, we're responsible for product development in the IoT space, which sounds like a few of you know, Internet of Things. It's collecting data from things, but it's more than that. It's making, taking the data, turning it into information that you can act on and provide value to the consumer or other third parties. So things that we're looking at doing to help enable that in product development for IoT is if you need a connected device, cellularly connected device, the chipsets that you have in your cell phone can send a lot of data, receive a lot of data, very high bandwidth, does a lot of graphics processing to have these, these big screens. Well, if you have a sensor, some kind of small sensor device, an Internet of Things, like a connected door lock or we're working with farmers to have sensors in the baskets they have in the field to monitor the quality and the conditions, temperature, humidity, light that the product sees when it goes through the value chain. You don't need a lot of data. Those things take a lot of power. So we work with our chipset partners to create different categories of LTE. So the LTE 4G chipset you have in your phone are category 4 or above. It's in high amounts of data. They have lots of different sensors, graphics processors in there. So we work with our chipset. They burn a lot of power. I mean, you guys probably know that if you're watching a movie on your phone. It's not lasting quite as long. But we're with their chipset providers on much lower power chipset. So there's parts of the LTE standard called category 1. This thing will only send a megabit per second. Theoretically up to 10, but in the real world it doesn't do that. We're soon to be releasing, in fact, the network is live as the end of this year, category M. This will only send 100 kilobits, theoretically 350, but it's only sending 100 kilobits. But there's Internet of Things applications that only need that much. And what's the advantage you get? These things are much less expensive. The category M's are going to be a tenth the cost of these other ones. So now you can build relatively inexpensive devices. And then they're much lower power. So I could have a sensor that measures location or temperature, and on a coin cell size battery, depending on how long you send, it could last a year. So those are the types of technologies we're naming. I'd like you to think about maybe when you're looking at solutions to develop that you could use for that. So my group, and I'll show you a couple of areas that we're working on. We're developing a platform. So to support the Internet of Things, we're good at managing devices. We have over 100 million devices. Some of you may have. We could manage those, the connectivity, the data plans, everything. We're looking to take back to the Internet of Things space. Those devices need to be managed. If you have it out there, how do I identify? How do I get data from it? How do I upload firmware? How do I do diagnostics on it? So we're creating a platform, an Internet of Things platform we call ThingSpace. So we're connecting all these things. So now instead of managing phones, we can manage door locks, smartwatches. One of the big focus my group's working on is smartwatches. So this platform will allow any device maker to manage their devices, manage the connection to those devices, and even help market services through that. So we're putting together a base platform that we can share with and partner with a bunch of different providers so that this platform will support, with scale, will very efficiently support a of Things, especially in the consumer space, managing all these devices, collecting all the data, performing analytics on it. And part of it is an analytics platform, as I mentioned. The only thing you collect from devices is data. Data is as useful, information is, and then deep analytics is how you get that information and react to it. So think about this ThingSpace platform we have. You can go to thingspace.verizon.com to understand a little bit more about it. In one area in particular that I want to bring up is wearables. So we looked at the market. You know, we sell cell phones, and you know we have a large share of the market there. That's sort of saturating. Everyone has a smartphone, so now it's just about consuming more data. But these new Internet of Things type devices, we're looking at what types of devices are coming that are going to be connected next. And wearables we see is one where you're that are going to be connected. You know, connecting them, getting them to the cloud where you can perform the analytics and deliver service is important. But we looked at wrist wearables, and you've seen the Fitbits of the world, health and wellness focused, you know, activity trackers. Then we saw smartwatches. You're starting to see a few of those come out. I would say the market hasn't quite found its killer app for that yet, but fitness is a big driver. But you're seeing things like child smartwatches, so you can track your child from 4 to 10 years old. They don't have a phone, but if you want to know where your child is, monitor them. Activity trackers. We even had ideas from here about measuring UV light. You could have something in a band. How much sun is my child getting? You know, things like that. But we're helping enable developers with development kits. So we've created a development kit for smartwatch manufacturers, and this isn't targeted at the Apples and the Samsungs of the world. We see a whole new class of Internet of Things and device manufacturers coming, and they're really the traditional ones. The Timexes, Fossils, Taggers of the world look at smartwatches as not just a threat but an opportunity. So Tagger has actually a smartwatch. So they're looking at going into that. Now they don't have the sophistication from the consumer electronics development side, so we're helping them with that. So I mentioned we have these category 1 and category M LTE devices. If you try to put the modems that we have in your cell phone in a smartwatch, basically by the time you power the thing up, the battery would be dead because it's very power consuming. You can't put that big a battery. But with these category M machine, and it's meant for machines, or any kind of device can be playing very low power. Doesn't send a lot of data, but you don't need to. So we created a development platform, reference design, that we share. So we're going to developers with this. So the first one is category 1. We partner with a provider called Sequence, and we're also working with other modem providers. That has the whole wireless connectivity development kit. So when we go to companies like Timex, Fossil, you know, even Rolex, they're like, how do I connect it? We look at this as a space we want to get into, but I'm not going to build up a team to figure out how to connect to a cellular network or pair it via Bluetooth to your phone. So we came up with a reference design that has all that, has a software layer. It's like, just use this. You can have it, and it'll connect up to our network. So these are the types of things we're helping to enable the market. So you could add cellular connectivity to a watch, a smartwatch, for what we call the BOM cost, bill of materials cost, of $10 or less, which is relatively inexpensive to what it would have been. It would, you know, 4 years ago, you would have been talking $80 to $100. So this is a kit that we developed, but we're partnering with a lot of those names that I just mentioned to help them create smartwatches. So that to give you an idea of some of the things that my group is looking at. It's creating these technologies, helping identify new markets that we can enable. In very specific cases, like I mentioned, is what new businesses do we want to get into? Like telematics, we did an acquisition for that. For Smart City, we did an acquisition for that. We're partnering on utility, smart utility grid for demand response, the electronic distribution system. So that's sort of all I have. I just want to expose you to the types of technologies in other businesses that Verizon is either indirectly or helping to enable.
Thank you.
All right, so one of the projects that Ted talked about, we did a project that used ThingSpace platform back in 2000. Wow, it's Yeah, and one strike in between. Right. It was a project in 2006. It's 2015. Right. Where student project we worked on was uses textile stretch sensors. We then took that project and we brought it to the product development group in Baskin Ridge, where we made a presentation there in December. And then it was deemed that that product was, we had good success there, and Ted and his team then drove that project to Marnie's group, which was, we had a presentation out of Dallas. We had great success with that shirt. We built a whole wearable shirt inside of like 3 months. And it actually did work. I wore the shirt the whole time through 20 presentations, 8 minutes apiece, right? And the reviews were tremendous, right? So it worked. I mean, Ted was pouring, water on my back, and it was getting my salinity solution, and it was monitoring my heart rate. But what was incredible about the space and the data that it was collecting is that things were changing on the, going from the shirt to the phone inside 1 minute, which is really something that was, hard to believe how it was processing all that data. But that's just, so that was an integrated soft solution, but still it was like we bolted something onto a textile. But that market has evolved to the point where, I just signed something with a company, signed an agreement with a company just a couple of days ago, where this company actually makes sensors that don't require power. And that is very powerful, right? So, and you can integrate these solutions into a textile. It's a very powerful mechanism. I've been looking my whole life for things that don't require power, right, Topher? That's the biggest, that's the biggest struggle. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things here. The space is very crowded with, things with mechanisms that are bolted on, right? Two entities coming together. That was what CES was about, really, for me. It was about how, things are bolted onto other substrates, other materials, other uses, and then out comes the flashy app, right? And that's what it looked like to me. There was very little integration from what I've seen. So during this time of this industry project, right, you're going to get to work with and acquire all the materials that you need. You don't have to pay for anything for this project. I say that now because that's one of the biggest questions. Just like the job question, if I go out and find things, how do I have to pay for them, right? So this project is fully funded. Every project has never gone past the amount of money I've ever budgeted for it. Okay? Because you guys are great stewards of cost and cost management. So if you're looking for a material, want to build a prototype, want to go do some research, go travel somewhere, go to New York, do some use case scenario where it takes travel or whatever the project costs are totally reimbursable to you. All you have to do is keep your itemized receipt, itemized, okay? It's not a handwritten thing on a note. That's not itemized, and it's not even your Visa receipt. That's not it. It's got to be itemized, right? So you bring those receipts to myself, my office, or Terry Loftus in the 3rd floor deck, and they'll be reimbursed to you for the following Friday. I even can give you the date. All right. So that includes all materials, research for the engineering students. All the componentry that you need is fully funded. All right, so we can do the ordering. Just give us the website and things that you need, and it's really not a problem. So I want to take that mask, that heavy weight off your back, and there's no problem with that at all. We want to talk about the project and archiving, and then you want to talk about the team.
Well, before we even talk about the teams or take questions, I have 5 points I want to make about the project based on the discussions we've had leading up to this point. So the first one is, my note to myself is to avoid nanny solutions. So there's a video I'm going to send to everybody called Man vs. Smart Home, about an elderly British man whose children have provided him with a smart fork that lets them know what he's eating, a smart cane that lets them know how much he's moving around, and then a smart bed that lets them know how much sleep he's getting. And it culminates with him defeating all 3 devices because he's sick of being watched. So if you're thinking about something like elder care, we want to see you come up with really clever solutions that don't repeat the ground that's been covered already, with all the stuff that's out there and all the things I've seen in previous years where somebody feels like they're being watched. Are there ways of doing this and transmitting that information without being intrusive? The second point, which I covered already, is the app. If there is an app, it should be secondary to the interface, so it's not going to be the primary interface of whatever you come up with. The third thing, as Mark alluded to, is we expect all teams to build something that works this time. It doesn't have to be a final prototype that looks exactly like your proposed solution, but we want to see everybody start wiring stuff up, playing with sensors, playing with feedback devices, playing with displays, and that's one of the reasons why there will be engineering students hopefully involved in the project as well. So we want to see everybody experimenting, building, playing with ThinkSpace or Arduino, whatever it takes you to get there, and we'll provide as much support as you need. You know, as another example, last year when one of the teams was looking at motion capture technologies, Mark immediately provided a budget for them to go out and get some motion capture devices to play around with them and get a sense for what the interaction was like. The third point is we want to see evidence of successful collaboration on this project. We're taking great pains to put teams together that we think are the right size and have the right kinds of expertise on them. And we want to see all the teams sort of document the kind of collaboration that you go through to show that you're working together successfully. And then the last thing, just to let you know, is the deadline will be in mid-April, so you'll have all semester to work on this. The final will be presented in mid-April. At that point, we'll decide which teams get to go on to the gala, which we'll talk about later. Those are my points. Should we talk about the teams?
Can I just chime in here? One of the things that we have worked really hard at as an institution, with my massive experience at this institution.
You only get 2 weeks to say that.
I know.
It's over.
I know. Is the fact that we pride ourselves on being design, engineering, and commerce, right? Multidisciplinarity is supposed to be ingrained in what we do. That's been harder to do in practice often, because when you are on teams, there's a desire to kind of segment out. It's okay that you segment out pieces of it, but make sure that you are a team. You're working on a team response. His point 3 about collaboration, that's really important. That's the most important of what we're trying to get here, is that collaboration piece, that ability for you to use the deck skills that put the design, the engineering, the business, the piece of it all together and give a product that's holistic, not just segmented. So even though you may be doing parts of this for a specific course or a specific assignment, keep that in mind. You're working together as a team here, and so you should be meeting as a team, you should be going through ideation, product development, validation, customer needs evaluation. All of that should be done at the team level. It shouldn't be, oh, you go off and do this, you do this, and then we'll maybe come back together and make it all fit together. Because that's the way it works in business, right, guys? That's the way it has to be, if you really want to be successful. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
All right, so, thank you. You know, Eric's going to be discussing the teams, and I'm going to say something, add on to Jonathan. What Jonathan said, the supply chain, right? Everybody knows the supply chain doesn't have to end within the 4 walls of Philadelphia University, right? Just because you can't reach for that yarn or that fabric and it's not there on that wall doesn't mean it can't be gotten, all right? Our supply chain is massive outside the university. And just come to me and I can tell you all about it, right? So the supply chain is also at your disposal, all right? So when you're talking about design, engineering, and commerce, looking at other industry partners, the collaboration and products that they could deliver on a single solution for Verizon is also very interesting, okay? Because they have products that could be commercialized and a product that could be commercialized in a shorter term rather than long-term development. So look to the supply chain too as an opportunity for exploration. Okay, so that's also very, very important, and we can go into the supply chain and get the materials that you need from those vendors or from those people. Okay.
And that reminds me of another one of the deliverables, and we'll list this out for everybody, is we're expecting every team along with their product concept or system concept, to also present some sort of business model. So we want to see evidence that you've thought about who's going to pay for this, and how does it fit into either the current system, or what things in the current system need to change in order to make this concept work. You know, particularly when you're dealing in the healthcare arena, you have to think carefully about, you know, what the reimbursement systems are and whether or not the technology that you're proposing represents some sort of disruption of those systems. And if it does, you have to figure out where it's going to fit in and how somebody's going to pay for it. Okay. Oh, and also, the other point I want to make, which we discussed yesterday, is you know, those scenarios are just jumping off points, and if you address a particular condition, disease, or situation, let's say it's diabetes management, we also want you to think more broadly. So don't just design something that addresses somebody who's trying to manage a particular disease like diabetes. Think about, you can use that as a jumping off point, but think about how that concept can be broadened to have as wide an applicability model as possible. Okay, well,
Are we assuming that this is a product that Verizon would represent and sell through Verizon, or compete with or work with other companies? Like if you created a textile wearable, would it be like a Verizon X Nike, like a collaboration as we design, or design specifically for Verizon using like their kind of color schemes and that type of thing?
Yeah, well, Mark mentioned we did a fitness shirt with sensors in it. Verizon's probably, you're making it in the auto business, we're telling them, we're not gonna be in the shirt business. So we would supply enabling technology. So the concept of where Verizon will play in that sensor shirt, we developed a Bluetooth device with a little controller on it that collected all the data, and then instead of being Bluetooth to smartphone or smartwatch, then into our ThingSpace cloud. So we might license that technology or charge them for use of our platform. So once you get that sensor data in the platform, that's where we make our money. So some percentage of sale or something. So we wouldn't go as far as making selling a shirt, branding a shirt. Now, there could be cases like we're doing stuff in connected home.
Yeah.
So there, we may develop a product. Or partner, could be if we were in partnership. We're providing this, and we'll figure out whose name's branded on the solution. So that's just some guidance there. We don't have to be selling the solution to make money. You know, if there's connectivity involved, then we could make money that way, obviously.
Great.
okay. All right, here are the teams, and I made some last minute adjustments to this. So there's one industrial design student on each team. There are 8 teams. And then there are, in most cases, 2, in some cases 1 textile student. There are other students who are going to be added to this, and then we're hoping to add as much as 2 engineering students to each team. So the maximum size of any team is going to be 5 students. So you guys just make a note of this. So team 1 is Haru, and then Ayeli, I'm sure I'm massacring this, Akako, is that person here? Okay, Angela Villanueva, so that's team 1. Team 2 is Harsha, Regan Mariner, and Jessica Newman. And I'll put this up there so you guys can make note of it. Team 3 is Kevin, Jessica Thies, and Kellen Kemmerer. Team 4 is Melvin, Jacqueline Bartolo, and Shoko Goda. Team 5 is Christopher Williams, Taylor Salva, and Eleanor Blay. I'm getting the pronunciation wrong, forgive me. Team 6 is Christopher Basiladen, Ariel Schock, and Ryu Wakabayashi. Team 7 is Will and Becky Flax, and there'll be another person added. And then Team 8, Ken Moyer, Nikhil Gala, who's not here, and Drew McKevin. So I'll put this up here. What we expect you guys to do today is at least, I don't have the email addresses on here yet, connect with your teammates, spend some time talking about schedule, talk a little bit about when are good times to meet. We We realize that your schedules don't overlap exactly, so you're gonna have to be a little bit creative in terms of communications. We're not dictating the format that you use or the vehicle that you use for communicating. Last year, we asked everybody to use Slack. We're gonna let you use whatever methods work for you, whether it's Google Drive, Slack, whatever you feel comfortable with. We're gonna lay out the rest of the interim guidelines for you. I have a schedule laid out, and I'll send that to everybody. The first step is obviously gonna be to do some research, and we're gonna lay out what our expectations are. And the last point I want to make is that Verizon's extremely generous with their time in providing people to interact with us during check-ins. This year, your participation in those check-ins, we'll lay out the schedule for them.